Hi Andy.
Hey Warren.
We're 2 weeks earlier than usual, but there's a reason. A very good reason.
Yeah, so this is actually a second part to the interview we held with John Springate. We had actually planned just not to take up too much of his time and only speak to him for, a few minutes. But he was actually so generous with his time that we've managed to make a second podcast, albeit not long one, but I think people are going to find this really interesting.
But at the same time, Andy, I think it's fair to say we were slightly unprepared, weren't we?
Yeah, we weren't expecting. Yeah.
But the good thing is, John just kept coming up with fascinating stories that I think in most cases he's maybe never told before.
The interview, and it was really more along the lines of a chat, it does jump around quite a bit and actually even continues for 10 minutes or so after we started to say goodbye to him.
John was terrific, wasn't he, Andy?
Yeah, he certainly was, yeah.
So that's enough of us. Here's John Springate.
The thing about, being young, you can do all that. You can do all that. It's not a problem. You can go to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, be up at 7 again. You can do all that stuff. But
are you saying you got no financial receipts from any of those tours that you did? Any shows?
No.
No, you're kidding.
No.
And a wage? No wage?
Oh, we were on a wage. We were on 60 quid a week.
Oh, yeah.
I always tell this story because it always makes me laugh because, Pete's brother-in-law was a milkman and he thought he was hilarious because as a milkman he was on 100 quid a week. I always remember that story.
And regular hours.
Remember that one.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
So who was pushing out tracks like Shout It Out and Always and Ever to other bands?
Well, I think Ram Publishing did a little bit of it. Shout It Out was I knew Tom Watkins when he was managing this group called Ice Cream. That's all pre all the other acts that he went on to successfully manage. And he liked the sound of it, and he managed to get it released on Fontana. So that was good, and got me into to produce it as well. So that was quite good. That was good.
Is that where you met Jeff Barnes, John? Did you know him before that?
Yeah, and Jeff, we used to be in the Boys Brigade together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's about 5 years between us. I mean, he was, I think he was 11 when I met him, and I was about 15. But he was an old 11. And he somehow fitted in with all of us, all the older boys, So we all sort of, started to get more interested in music, and he formed the band Ice Cream, and so we still stay in touch even now. Yeah,
oh, great.
Yeah.
Do you remember with the recording that, John? I know it's a long time ago, and it would have been just one day, but my understanding, we've heard that Pete Phipps ended up playing drums on that track.
Yeah, this is all a bit weird because I think the multi-track was at Southern Music, and somebody told. Well, I think the engineer said he didn't think the bass was good, so he decided to put a new bass on it. I said, "Oh, right, okay."
Bloody hell!
But it got mixed at I think it's Polydor Studios. I think they had studios in Hyde Park somewhere. I read about Hyde Park. I seem to remember. And Steve Lillywhite produced the B-side. He was the engineer.
That's right.
He was a tape op at the studio.
Oh, blimey.
And he produced the B-side.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I remember mixing it. I was going to tell the engineer what I wanted. I knew exactly what I wanted to hear out of it. And it worked out really well.
Do you know that ended up being released about a week before Hey?
Did it? Oh, I didn't know that.
It was, yeah. We found a review for it, and we're quite surprised to hear that.
Oh, okay.
Nobody was telling you, John.
No. But it did get some Radio 1 play. You do get some. Yeah, it did. I remember. What was their thing with this in the summer? They used to do the Radio One Roadshow. It
Yeah.
got played on that. I remember hearing it on that, and I thought, oh, it sounds all right. Yeah, because the test is the record on the radio. Really, if anything, how does it sound? It's like, oh yeah, it sounds good. Unless the record company's got a shed load of money to throw at it, they don't stand too much of a chance when you've got the big guns coming out like Susie Quattro and Mars and Sweet. So unless it gets grabbed hold of straight away, they're not going to have much luck getting any real sales out of it. And Fontana was a funny old label anyway when you think about it. It was a very old-fashioned label.
Sort of jazzy label and sort of re-releases type label, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Talking about airplay, we, in a recent podcast we did with our three guests, we picked, it was 10 Glitter Band songs you may have missed. Now, I won't run through all the songs and bore you, but one of the songs was Alone Again, and there was a long discussion about whether anyone could remember hearing that song getting any plays on the radio.
Well, I don't think it did, and I was not happy with that being released at all. At the time, I think Mike decided, well, we'll put some sleigh bells in it and we'll make it a Christmas single. And that was the plot, and I thought, no, this is so dreary. It's such a dreary song. Yeah. It really is. And I never thought it would be a hit at all. I thought, no, this is a big mistake, not this one.
John, it's a pretty subtle mix, isn't it? It wouldn't really cut through on the radio.
No. It's just, once again, it's one of Jerry's downer moments.
Hang on. Well, you did co-write it, John.
Well, it was more him than me. Definitely,
it does sound like a Jerry song.
Yeah.
And you'd written it quite a few months before it was actually released, so it's interesting to hear you talk about Mike and the sleigh bells.
Yeah. He did. If you hear it, you got the sleigh bells on there. So it was, let's put it out for Christmas. And no, nothing at all. Nothing at all on that.
But you would have thought he'd say to you, "Can you go out and write a Christmas single?" If that's what he really thought you should be doing.
Yeah.
It's just crazy that he didn't.
I think it was at the time when it was, that's all we had in the can at the time. There was no time to sort of write anything else.
You were touring so heavily, that was the problem, I guess.
Probably.
So look, going on to your writing, if you're touring that much, how many of your songs were like formulated sitting on stage in a hotel room and stuff like that while you're out on tour, and how much did you maybe do at home or in the studio when you're writing?
I think very little on the road for me anyway. My writing was very much at home, where I could just sit down and get a clear head. And to write stuff. I don't think I ever wrote anything on the road, to be honest. It was either in the studio. I mean, Jerry and I got People Like You together in Mayfair. He had half the chorus. People like you and people like me, and then I sang, "I'll come together, and maybe we'll see," and it just finished it off. And so, that came together in the studio. Sometimes, when you're under pressure, "Love in the Sun," the lyrics we wrote in Mayfair, and it was a nightmare because you're trying to. It's very much a summer song, so all those things you've got to write about are to do with summer. It's very hard to focus. It took us a little bit of time to do that, and over a few hours. Because we were actually recording it that day, So, I think while we were getting the B-side, the guys were sort of looking at, doing overdubs on the B-side and stuff like that. Jerry and I just frantically writing lyrics upstairs in the reception room.
So, if you had to say which of you was the lyric guy, if that's a valid question. Out of the two of you, Jerry and yourself, which would be the lyric guy? Or was it about feet equal?
That's a difficult one. I think we're pretty good on both of that. You know, when we did play that song again for Eurovision, I was going to be doing the vocal with Nikki the next day, and Jerry gone home to write the lyrics. Most of the lyrics anyway. We had quite a bit of it together. But there was one line where he because I had to write it all down over the phone, and a couple of lines before the chorus were, all said and done, it just wasn't meant to be. Now you're the lonely one, he said. And I said, no, now I'm the lonely one. And it's just little twists like that we, you know, Jerry was very good at nailing it in terms of like straight to the heart. And I go, oh no, that's too direct. Let's just skate around the edges a little bit. And probably that shows in our personalities, if you like. You know, he was very direct, where I'd skate around the edges.
Yeah.
You know
that John, we've heard a few of Jerry's demos, and that comes across in his demos.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah.
They are quite blunt at times, you know, but also pretty funny, but quite blunt.
Yep, absolutely.
When we did our podcast of the 10 Glitter Band songs you may have missed, 3 songs came up, which were I Don't Want to See You Tonight.
All right.
Hard to Settle Down.
Yeah.
And Nothing at All. Now, Susan, who's one of our regular guests, was not that familiar with them, and she's just added them to her playlist.
Right, okay.
So what do you think of those 3?
Oh,
Nothing at All. She loved Nothing at All. That was the one she
Nothing
adored.
at All we did at Rockstar, my old studio. I managed to get Blake some time because I'd sold it on to Malcolm Arrington. But I said, look, I just need some time. And he said, yeah, go on, just use it. So it was me, Pete, Jerry, and Eddie. And I kind of produced it, I suppose. But all the vocals I did one night when it was all very, very quiet and I could get on with it. And I have to say, I think I went down the Queen Road because I think Bohemian Rhapsody was floating around at that time, and I was just going for it as far as like as much as I could do, as much backing vocals as I probably could, you know. And always in the back of my mind, it's funny because when Mike died, I actually wrote to Penny, his wife, and said, you know, because we didn't have much time to talk at the funeral, and I said to her, you know, every time I think of, you know, what to do in the studio, I always think, what would Mike do? You know, and it was very much the same for that particular track, I think.
Yeah,
you know, you listen to it, but there's a load of backing vocals on there.
Oh, yeah.
And in those days, there was no copy and pasting at all.
Right.
It was, you know, it was all that, you know, doing it all the way through. So it took me a long time to do those vocals. What was the other track? Sorry.
One thing about Nothing at All, John. When I first heard that song, I thought it sounded like something Mike could have produced for the Glitter Band in the 80s. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Right.
I thought exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
The other one was Hard to Settle Down. That was one of them.
Settle Down, yeah.
Of Paris Match, which is
what can I say
quite
about that
different to most of that album.
Yeah.
And that's one that you wrote with Mike.
Yeah, it's and very interesting chords.
Yes.
In terms of we had to sit down because I knew one. It's funny when if you're I'm not a keyboard player by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes you put your hands on there and you go to a shape and you go, oh, that's interesting. So yeah, we really had to sort of sit down and work out what the chords were, you know. The chorus was supposed to be, and when the big time comes around, that was supposed to be a sax solo.
Oh.
And Mike said, Johnny, I think you need I think we need something there. Yeah. And then in the studio, I started singing. Da, 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 da. I think the line I was singing was going to be for the sax part. Da, 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 da. He said, "That's it." He said, Use that as the chorus." I said, "Right." And so we recorded that in Paris, and I went back to and the same with "Where Have You Been." I went back to the hotel and wrote the lyrics in that night. Just did it straight away. So yeah, that's hard to settle down. Yeah, it was good. It was a good track. It was a good track. It worked out really well. And the other one,
the other one was "I Don't Want to See You Tonight."
I didn't want to say it. That was the B-side to Heartbeat to Heartache. Yeah, yep. Yeah. We did that when we were in Australia because we got a release on it through. Well, I've forgotten the record label now.
Interfusion. It was in Australia.
Yeah, it's just a B-side. Just a B-side. We knocked it out. Knocked out a quick B-side.
Well, people love that song.
Yeah.
It's not too bad.
Well, it was a little more pop in our discussion, which was 5 people, John. It got a majority over "Heartbeat to Heartache" as an A-side.
Oh, really? Oh, right.
It did, didn't it, Andy? Remember that?
Yeah.
Richard Kenner picked that song.
Right. And Heartbeat was recorded at Rockstar. That was recorded at Rockstar. And I said to Jerry, I think you should sing this. I think you'd be better at singing this, And we got Chas Chandler to have a listen. He said, "Yeah, I like it." So the funny thing about that was that he had a copy of it, and he had a radio program on Radio 1 for some reason. I don't know how he managed to get that, but he actually played it on Radio 1 only because he said, "I've been given this song," he said, "and I can't remember who's given it to me. So I'm going to play it. So if anybody's listening who knows who it is, let me know." And that was it. So, but he produced it on his, he released it on his label. But just didn't do anything, Once again, the old punk thing was there, staring us in the face. So no chance.
Did you ever perform it live, John?
I don't think we ever did, actually. No. I mean, the touring and gigs were long gone by then. I mean, we didn't do anything in '77. I can't remember us doing anything at all. By then it was all over. There was no. I don't think it was any. I think we did a university type tour thing. We were trying to get into that area, but that was too early, really. For that sort of thing. That only started to happen when Gary started to do it in the '80s, really, where you had all the the kids that were big glam rock fans, wanting to hear their favorite act from the '70s, and they weren't really into punk, so yeah.
The question I've got for John is, what does he think of the 2 tracks, Oulé La and Hey Girl? I mean, I know what we think of them, but
well, that does sound promising.
No.
We love them.
No. I love Hey Girl.
John, yeah. Hey, we love both tracks.
The B-side is dreadful, absolutely dreadful.
Okay.
It does seem with that as far as the vocal goes because it's so high. It's so high. I can just about do that vocal, but I've got to be biased in as much as the actual "Oulé Loulé La" as a song. I think it's quite poppy, really. That nowadays I would think I think I would it would be far superior now as a production. When I listen to it, it's far too fast. And it would have been nice to have some nice backing vocals on the chorus and but overall, I think it shows promise, whoever wrote it.
But it's got the vibe of middle of the road, the band, I mean, rather than the genre of music.
Definitely. Yeah, that would have been right up their alley. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Chicory Tip.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Chicory Chip, actually. They would have done a good job. There was a documentary on with Roger Daltrey, and they were asking him about the Charlton gig, because they did 2 Charlton gigs. And, I mean, that is a big stadium. And they said, do you remember the second one? He said, no, I can't remember it. Do you know what I mean? And you think, my God, you're playing in front of like 30,000 people. And, but I think that's what it gets like, really. It all gets a bit of a haze, if you like.
Were you able to make it to one of the 2 recent Albert Hall shows, John?
No, I would love to have gone. The last time I saw them, they were doing the O2 and they were doing Quadrophenia, and my partner bought me tickets.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
I mean, he's not interested in the Who, but my best mate Steve, he came along with me, and it was oh God, it was so I was not in tears, but I was really what they'd done, because there's one song where John Entwistle used to do a solo, and they made it so that they synced it up with the drummer, and they had John Entwistle on the screen above the giant screen doing his solo, and it was just magic. It was just fantastic.
Things,
But the best time I've seen them was when they used to do the I've seen it about 5 times, but the most memorable one was when Brian Epstein used to do his Sunday concert at the Savile Theatre, and Jimi Hendrix was supporting. So,
wow, you saw them then?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I must have been about 17, 18 maybe.
Yeah.
Right. But, seeing Jimi Hendrix, and doing Wild Thing. And it's the night, it's actually documented on the Beatles anthology, because Paul and some of the Beatles were there. And Sgt. Pepper had just been released a week before. And Jimi Hendrix learned Sgt. Pepper. Sgt. Pepper's on the Oscar, and did it on stage that night. And I was there.
Wow.
Oh, amazing.
So, yeah, amazing. But they were fantastic. I saw later. I saw them. They'd just done their first American tour with the Herman's Hermits, and when they came back, they were flying. I mean, they were. It was at the Lyceum Theatre, Lyceum in London, and my mate and I we queued up. And there was a massive queue, and the guy came out. We were about halfway up the queue, and he said, "Sorry, everybody, so it's all sold out." Well, right, okay. So we went to the back of the Lyceum, and as we turned the corner at the back, the exit doors at the Lyceum flung open, and there was this bouncer there. And he says, "Right, I've got 2 tickets, £1 each." And we went, yeah. So we managed to get to see the Who, and we were where the exit was. We were right at the front of the gig, so we managed to see him, at the front of the stage, and they were blinded, and they were absolutely blinded. They really were incredible. Yeah. So those were and of course there was when Keith was still alive.
Yeah.
He was so much a part of the band. He really was. But there you go.
Yeah.
Great.
Don't take drugs, children. Don't take drugs.
John, I saw him at the Melbourne Grand Prix about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And they'd been off the road for about a year, and they were terrific because they were so fresh.
Right.
And, gee, they were good.
Yeah.
They were just great.
They are good.
Yeah.
I wish I'd seen them. I've missed out so many times.
Yeah, I mean, they sort of take it quite easy now, I think, because they're in their 80s, for God's sake, But
did you hear about the Jack Starkey issue? The Zach.
Yeah, that's all
Starkey
blown
issue
over now, is it? He's back in.
Yeah, that was sort of on. He was out and back in again about a day later, wasn't he?
And bloody right as well. It's all to do with this electric kit he's playing, isn't it? He's. I think Roger's having trouble with it. In his cans or something like that. Just talk to each other, for God's sake.
Yeah, sure, sure.
You can imagine, what he's like. Brick walls Oh, tell him to turn. You know, I think the bass player got the word. You know, turn it up, and be more busy.
Yeah.
That was the message from Pete. Apparently, there you go. There we are. Enough about them.
Oh no, John. There's one question about them because you have said before that "Sweet Baby Blue" is based on a Who song.
Oh, yes.
And I don't actually think it is. So
it is.
I think it is. Well, I've
Painted
listened,
Lady.
Well, I've listened to quite a few Who songs, John. It sounds pretty original to me. So
it's the same chord.
Tell us.
It's the same chord. Man, he was the man who had some good. It's it's that rundown. Pictures of Lily made my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the same chord.
Oh my God!
Oh, it's the verse.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
See, I was listening to the chorus.
You can sing Pictures of Lily over there.
Oh my word!
Oh, I was down the wrong track for all those years, John. There I was listening to the choruses. You know, I was comparing choruses and thinking, no. Wow.
Yeah, you can sing Pictures of Lily over there.
Well, you've made my day there. Thank you.
And Painted Lady. Yeah, I mean, absolutely a nick from the lyrics. Not the same lyrics, obviously, but it was the same idea, you know.
Sentiment, yeah.
So, John, we started off with Ulai Ulai La.
Yeah.
And we've ended up talking about The Who.
Yeah.
And we've ended up talking about Pictures of Lily, Sweet Baby Blue, and also Painted Lady. I think that's pretty good. What do you think?
That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, because Andy and I were concerned at the start, thinking, "Oh, how will this go?" Because it's it's a single that, to the best of your knowledge, was never ever released, and we're asking you about it 51 or 52 years later after it was recorded. So, John, I'd like to say on our behalf, thank you very much. You've just been terrific, and we would love to speak to you again. Your stories, John, are just wonderful. People want to know about your songs. Because compared to the Rollers, Shawaddy Waddy, Mud, and you know where this is going, but you didn't just write your album tracks, you wrote your singles. And the other thing is, Andy, are we up to about 60 unreleased demos of the period? It's about that, isn't it?
Yeah.
No one, John, Sweet, Andy Scott has said, I think there's about 2 unreleased songs and a couple of instrumentals. Noddy Holder has said there is 1 unreleased Slade song that they didn't write. The Glitter Band have over 60. But John, it's one hell of an achievement.
Amazing. Yeah, it's quite that's I didn't realise it was so many.
Well, some may be Jerry on his own or whatever.
Yeah.
The songs of yours that we've heard are complete, where a lot of Jerry's are probably ideas, there's a bit of that and there's a bit of this, aren't they, Andy? Some of them complete, but yours tend to generally be a finished song. And I'm probably digressing a bit, but with Rock and Roll Dudes, I'm sure you know the story that you and Mike spoke at the time about there being 25 tracks that you had the options to record. Well, I think we've found them. You did have 25 tracks, John. It's incredible. But there's some really good songs that didn't make it.
I think he chose the right ones. I mean, they seem they all fit together on that album.
And I guess some were chosen for the reason possibly to give the album a little more variety.
Yeah.
When you were getting those tracks together, this was the period when you'd done 3 very long tours in 74. So you were absolutely flat out, and you managed to go into the studios. January of the next year with 25 demos. You were working, weren't you?
Well, yeah. Flat out, definitely, yeah. Yeah, it was a busy time.
There's a lot of determination there, I can tell. It was just like, yeah.
Yeah, I think, we we wanted to be as successful as a band and as solo singers as well, And it was funny because I do remember Pete was on the verge of leaving, and I convinced him to stay.
Yeah.
I said, "Don't go." I said, "Really, don't go now. we're just on the verge, you know. We'd started to, and it was just before we went in the studio and did the first lot of demos at Mayfair. You know, that he was just on the verge of leaving. And I thought, no, I said, it won't be the same without you. It really won't be the same. And I managed to convince him to stay, you know, because he's such a good drummer. Such a good drummer. He's a brilliant drummer, you know.
When you went in to record Rock and Roll Dudes, was there any pressure from Mike or Bell to include a few covers?
No, it just seemed right to do. They just seemed to fit in, if you like. Yeah, I don't think there was a problem there. Yeah, and of course, the first album we just had more. I mean, I'd Shout It Out, and what was the other one? Shout It Out, and I Can't Stop. I think were they on the first album?
I Can't Stop ended up on the second album.
Yes, I Can't Stop. But they both work really well on stage.
Yeah.
They're real belters. They really are, you know. And I was just getting into the frame of mind of writing songs specifically for the band, you know, rather than, you know, just writing sort of love songs, if you like, you know. Because by then I knew the criteria, what was needed. I think the singles were very just a band, you know. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it was the whole, you know, let's get together again, you know, really sing along stuff, you know. And they worked really well. I think they worked really well. I mean, to be honest, if it was left to me to write the singles, we wouldn't have been where we are. I think it was very much down to John and Jerry that they had the you know, the right frame of mind to get the singles together. I think I Can't Stop. No, Shout It Out was put by at one point as a possible single, but then because that's the sort of thing that makes people work harder, and it's like, so John and Jerry said, "Oh, you know, we better get a new song together," you know, the pair of us, you know. So yes, I think I forgot what single that was, but anyway, there we are.
Might have been your favourite just for you, John.
Yeah. We won't talk about that.
Andy's with you on that, John. Look, it polarises people.
I hate it.
But Andy, remember when we did the round table? A couple of our participants just love it, don't they? It was their favourite song.
It's just a very strangely structured song. The lyrics just don't work for me. Anyway, I won't do it all again.
I think JR even said that he didn't love it. Yeah, I think he did. I think he said the pressure was on to get a single written, you know, and I think his comment was not one of our best.
Yeah, just one. It's just no. I never did like it too much. Yeah, but we do it on stage, obviously, you know. But it's got to be done. We get it out of the way as soon as possible. I think it's about the third song in. Get it out of the way. Let's get on with it.
I Can't Stop though is such a wonderful set opener, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's great. It's straight because we generally start with rock and roll, do a bit of rock and roll, parts 1 and 2, and then we're into I Can't Stop. Yeah, it works really, really well. It's good. And of course, Tell Him works well. That was my idea of doing that one. We were rehearsing at. There used to be a place we used to rehearse in Camden Town. It was a dance hall, and we used to, you hire it during the day. And I just started playing it. I remember the song, you know, when it was a hit, and for some reason I was starting, I know something about my, and it just worked so well. It works really well as a single, and of course, Hello went on to have a single as well with it. You know, it was really good.
The guitar parts are terrific on that song, John.
Yeah, it does. It works. It works great as a glitter band song. We did a gig somewhere with oh God, I've forgotten the singer's name. What was the name?
Billy Davis.
Billy Davis, yeah. She was on the bill. She was on the bill.
Wow.
And she came in the dressing room and said, do you mind if I do my version tonight?
Oh, no.
She said, yeah, of course you can. Don't be daft.
Yeah, well, Hay sold pretty well, John, so she probably got a few pounds out of that, didn't she?
Yeah. Well, whoever wrote it, put it
Oh,
that
that's
way.
a point. Yeah,
Whoever
yeah,
wrote
she
it,
didn't.
you
It
know.
was Bert Burns or someone, I think.
It's funny when you say that, because I always think back to the Beatles' first album, Please Please Me. That made a lot of people rich. I mean, all those songs that they did, that, and somewhere who's probably a bit destitute these days, at the time, and suddenly that they must have, every one of those writers must have made at least $1 million, at least, I would think, that first album. So, but I'm such a Beatles buff, it's ridiculous, and I can listen to George Harrison for hours. He's just such a soul, a beautiful soul. He really is, And I just love that scene of him with the being asked to asked what he thinks of the shirts in Hard Day's Night. I think it's a wonderful moment. He's so good in that bit. He really is. But yeah. I mean, who doesn't like the Beatles?
Do you reckon his later playing could have been a bit of an influence on Jerry?
I never knew what Jerry's influences were, to be honest. I don't know. I mean, he was as much a Beatle fan as we all were, because we grew up in that generation. But I never knew what his influences were, really. I think more than anything else, he'd probably down that blues, R&B, area, because the band that they had, I mean, with John, I mean. Well, it was like a soul band, really, so he did know about soul licks and stuff like that. So I think he was very much an all-rounder as a player. You could get him to play anything, really.
Thank you to John Springate, and we're looking forward to speaking to John again. Andy, the podcasts I've enjoyed participating in the most have been the round tables with our three guests, but this one was special. Maybe we could finish by each picking a highlight.
Well, I think the thing I particularly enjoyed was the talk around the Who about seeing the band, and also how elements of their songs, and one in particular, made its way into some Glitter Band songs. I find all that really fascinating.
And mine is John telling the story of a sax break turning into the chorus of Hard to Settle Down, where, Andy, he also takes off a particular person. And we might call that person ML.
I think when we interview the other Glitter Band member, you're going to get that impression as well.
That's something to look forward to. And we'll be back with our next podcast in a couple of weeks.
And Mike said, Johnny, I think you need... I think you need something there.